Welcome to Planet MicroCap. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and joining me today is Jim Martin. He's the co-CEO and CFO at Cocrystal Pharma. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is COCP on NASDAQ. Jim, thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
Hey, thank you, Robert. I'm doing fine. Thank you for your audience for listening in on this. Off to a
Absolutely.
good year.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. So this is actually our first time doing an interview together. So can you start us off with that quick overview and history of the company?
Yeah, sure. So the company was founded by Dr. Roger Kornberg, who had just won a Nobel Prize, and he had these great ideas on how to make antiviral drugs. So he got with Dr. Gary Wilcox, who was a friend, and they brought in Dr. Sam Lee, who's our current co-CEO, and went to a lot of doctors, Philip Frost, to get some funding, and they started this company in which they spent many years in the beginning building a platform that could use this RNA, DNA, knowledge that Roger had to create something that could make these, ideally broad spectrum. I mean, they really had aggressive goals in the beginning for a total pan-viral antiviral. There's ideally one pill a day takes care of most viruses. And here we are now, currently in clinics with a couple compounds we can talk about. And one of them is a pan-viral for both coronavirus and norovirus.
Very good. So let's dig into that a little bit further. My next question, whenever I have, biotech on here, is I want to know about the current target indications as well as where the company is at in the clinic. So let's go. You started to go there, so let's take it further.
Yeah, I have to hold myself back to let you ask questions. I'm always kind of excited to run through the company.
I
So
appreciate that.
yeah, so I think our furthest along lead would be our influenza asset, which is completing a phase 2A, and we expect data to come out this year. This is a human challenge model, that clinical trial where it's done in the UK, and they infect the patients, and then they administer our antiviral drug to cure them. So it's a very clean trial, and that when they got the disease, it helps with this, to make sure the data is very clean and very tight. And that's going along well. There's been no reported adverse events so far, and we're well into that. We started that clinical trial last year. And as I said, we're expecting data later on this year. In influenza, I mean, we all still get it. I mean, even though there's numerous vaccines, and as I always say, you need vaccines and therapeutics. Vaccines are sort of like your first line of defense to prevent it from happening, but especially viruses, they mutate so quickly, and they're always changing that it's very difficult to create a vaccine that's going to stop it every time, all the time. So people will get sick, and that's where therapeutics always come in, and you need that therapeutic, and that's where we have a huge opportunity to help the world in that, and that's why we're in influenza A. Now, the other compounds, if you don't mind me just keep running through this, Robert. We also have, as I said, it's a pan-viral, meaning it goes after multiple targets. This is a oral compound. It's called CDI-988. That's what we call it. And if you go to our website, you'll see in the discussion we have on this. It's currently in a phase 1 for both coronavirus and for norovirus. And when I say coronavirus, we're talking about multiple strains, including MERS, SARS, CoV, all the main families of that virus. And then norovirus, in case people don't know, there's no vaccine out there, and there's no therapeutic out there. It's an untouched disease that causes billions of dollars in its costs throughout the cruise industries, retirement homes, the military, anywhere you have a congregation of people. And it's a very terrible disease. And I don't need to mention coronavirus. We're all aware of that. Thankfully, we're over the worst part of that, but that disease, much like influenza, is unfortunately, we believe, here to stay. somewhat seasonal, continues to mutate, much like influenza does, and that's why it's such a hard, disease to build a vaccine on, because it's always changing. But that's what's happening with coronavirus, and I don't want to say it's a nice thing, but the way these diseases evolve, much like this COVID-19, they start off usually causing more deaths. And but the virus, as they mutate, those ones, that mutation that causes more deaths in humans, typically kind of goes away because it kills its host, and that's not what these viruses want to do. So it's the ones that don't kill the host that tend to continue to thrive on. And that's what you see with coronavirus. It's continuing to thrive on. It doesn't kill you, but it will make you very sick, as people are still getting it. I know a number of people that still got it this year, and they're vaccinated, which helps a lot, and may even, shorten the disease when they have it. But you're still gonna get it because of the way these viruses mutate, and they mutate incredibly fast. And I'm just talking about viruses in general. They do.
Very good. So, another question that I have for you on here, what would you say makes Cocrystal's compounds and formulas unique and different compared to some of your peers out there?
I would say in the way our pipeline develops them, we have a very strong, scientifically run company that also understands the cost of clinical trials and the failures. And they also are not the type that would rush anything into a clinical trial just to be able to get the stock moving and the company moving to survive. These are people that most are already wealthy, and they just want to, they think big, and they just want to get it in there, and not just rush it in there, but to actually develop these compounds. And so we spend a lot of time, and what this platform has done is in getting a very broad spectrum compound developed, meaning we don't just want to develop a compound that stops, let's say, SARS-CoV-19. We need one that can stop SARS-CoV-19. We also needed to be able to stop MERS and the whole rest of the family of these coronaviruses. The same goes for the influenza. There's a number of influenzas in that family. So when we develop very broad spectrum compounds to cover the whole family, and we don't, those are details that you don't hear sometimes on the company. You hear, oh, it's another influenza A company, but what are they showing antiviral activity against? And that's where we're unique in that we do make sure we have we do take our time. We do make sure we have a very broad spectrum compound developed before we put it into clinical trial. It runs a battery of tests to make sure that we've done everything we can before we go into the expensive clinical trials. And then we also look for, things that can help us, like going to Australia for a phase 1 clinical trial, in which the government will actually rebate you over 40% of the costs of having a clinical trial there. So we're very cash-minded, very driven to cure the disease. And I think that is one of the things that makes us a little unique from some of the other companies I've, witnessed and have worked at conferences with.
All right. So, Jim, to close us out here today, from what you can tell us, what would you say are some of the company's value catalysts now moving forward?
So I would say that, we do have our influenza and coronavirus and norovirus. And the corona and norovirus are both one oral pill that will take care of both of those. So those, in the clinical trials that they're in, will be coming out. Both of those will be coming out with data. And those are all very high value indications in a market that, needs these types of therapeutics out there very clearly. The company also, I think, is a very strong financially, because we only have common stock issued, around 10 million shares. We don't have any preferred stock, no warrants, no debt. And we do have enough cash in bank to currently take us through into 2025, well into 2025. So we're not actually out fundraising or anything. We also have a lot of opportunities coming up with the data in our current positions that we didn't have in the past. We're have a lot of opportunities to open up with the government, both NIH and BARDA, from being able to get the data that we already have and the data coming out from these clinical trials. We expect huge opportunities there. We continue to talk to pharma companies and for opportunities where we may carry these forward with a partner or just keeping open-minded with that to see what to do next. But I think this year is a very big year as far as getting out the data. Phase 1 is efficacy, which is always important to be safe. Is safety and tolerability, which is always important for phase 1 to get past that. And our phase 2 is going to be the efficacy on this influenza compound. So these are huge data points that we're going to be coming out with, and with our current position in working with the government and discussing these compounds. I think we have an exciting year coming up this year in 2024 and 2025.
Very good. All right. Well, Jim, with that, where can our audience go and find more information about Cocrystal Pharma?
www.cocrystalpharma.com. You'll find it all there. And of course, you can reach out to us from the website if you have any specific questions.
Very cool. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I look forward to our next update.
Same here, Robert.